Joe Black, LibertyTV.com. I was putting together a video on 1099s, how to file those without paying. When I was looking for definitions, I found this internal memo document. I wanted to show you this first because what it does is shows you exactly how they indoctrinate their own employees to believe the crap they're peddling. If you're going to have soldiers that are going to fight for you, they actually have to believe the lie, I guess. So let me show you the wording in this document, how they mix truth and reality with complete horseshit. Stick around.
There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen! And not a one of you is prepared for it!
Okay, so here's the document. Our URL is up at top. This is supposed to be regarding the definitions section, particularly the word person. However, they spend very little on that part until later on in the memo, but they spend a whole lot of energy in the first place mixing crap with reality. So let me just read it straight out and then I'll explain what you're really hearing as I go along. You have to understand certain definitions to know the true meaning and which words they're substituting for the true words that they should be using, how they're mixing all this up. I'll explain. Here we go. Under purpose at the top. So this is the purpose of this document, I guess. The Internal Revenue Service is aware that some taxpayers are claiming that they are not subject to federal income tax or that their income is excluded from taxation because. Now they have tons of these to enter this way, and then they throw in, whatever, enter ABC below. On this one, the taxpayers have declared that they have rejected or renounced United States citizenship because the taxpayers are citizens exclusively of a state, sometimes characterized as natural-born citizen or of a sovereign state. You can already see they're getting ready to set up the word sovereign citizen. The word state over here is actually defined as DC, but we'll get on to that. So first they put in the bullshit, the agenda, setting up the sovereign citizen, people are crazy. Then they put comma or. Now we get into the taxpayers claim they are not persons as identified by the Internal Revenue Code. Well, that is a truth. Way, way, way down in this document, I'll show you the proof. These taxpayers often furnish Forms W-4, Employees Withholding Allowance Certificate, which is what turns you into a taxpayer, a willing servant when you sign it, to their employers on which the taxpayers claim excessive withholding allowances or claim complete exemption from withholding. Based on these Forms W-4, federal income taxes are not withheld from wages paid. So, right here they're saying they have a problem with people that put too many exemptions or mark exempt so that there's no withholding. Well, if you don't want withholding, don't fill out the W-4. However, because you can't be doing this, and I'll explain why. Alternatively, these taxpayers attempt to avoid their federal income tax liability by submitting a Form 4852, substitute for Form W-2 or 1099, are to the IRS with a 0 on the line for the amounts of wages received. That's completely within the law. There's nothing wrong with that because the whole purpose to that is to correct the false information reported on the W-4 that resulted from the W-2. Nothing wrong with that. So here's the setup. They've already told you that there's these people that kind of sound like they might be using a subject about not being citizens or citizens of this, and they're sovereign citizens maybe. So they set up these words that trigger certain emotions, and then they use something that's perfectly okay to do. So they've already started the mixture right there. These taxpayers often either fail to file returns or file returns showing no income, claiming a refund for any withheld income taxes. Okay, now why would these taxpayers, people liable, they failed to file a return? Well, they just got done saying that they tried to avoid by filing a form 4850. Well, if they're not filing, how did they file that form if they're not filing? Which is it? Okay, see the screw up here? Doesn't even make sense. Comma or, here we go again. Again, if you failed to file but you filled out the W-4, you already set yourself up and said you're liable, so now you have to answer to it. You don't have to pay, but you better correct it or pay. Not filing is not answering. Comma or, file a return showing no income and claiming a refund for any withheld taxes. Again, perfectly okay to do. You are filing a return. Not filing to file means not answering. Filing is filing. That means you're following up. So you can't file a return and then what they want to do is make it look like showing no income and claiming a refund for what was withheld is somehow equally bad to not filing, which is bullshit. The service is also aware that some promoters, including return package material claim, to show taxpayers how they can avoid paying income taxes based on these and other meritless arguments. Well, the only argument mentioned is way up here, which is where taxpayers claim they're not U.S. citizens. Or, whatever. And an argument is also something when you write that statement physically on the face of the return. So you have to file in order to make the argument. So when they say they either don't file or they try to get their money withheld returned, but then they're making the argument, you can only do one of those three. You can't mash them all together. You either filed or you didn't. You either filed correctly or you made an argument. Continue. This revenue ruling emphasizes to taxpayers, promoters, and return preparers that all U.S. citizens, which is someone who lives in D.C., and the residents are subject to federal income tax. Okay. Any argument that a taxpayer's income is excluded from taxation because the taxpayer has rejected or renounced United States citizenship because the taxpayer is a citizen exclusively of a state, sometimes characterized as natural born citizen or sovereign state, or the taxpayer is not a person as identified in the code. They're just repeating this, has no merit, and is frivolous. And if you do write that thing up at top, making these claims, you were to write it on the face of the document. When you file, then you're going to get a frivolous filing fee penalty. This was something done in the 80s and 90s a lot. Ernst Schiff got himself in trouble doing this. You do not write your position. You don't take some crazy position and then scratch crap out and write shit on the face of the return. That's why in 2006 they changed the frivolous filing penalty from $500 to $5,000 because so many people were doing it. Now they cash these things out like crazy. They just hand these frivolous filing things out because people write crazy shit on the face of their return. And that's why you see these tax lawyers on TV saying, do you owe $10,000 or more? That's where this comes from. It's a setup. They created that whole thing. Okay, back to the paper. The service is committed to identifying taxpayers who attempt to avoid their federal tax obligation by taking frivolous positions. Again, writing comments is when you take positions. It has nothing to do with properly filing to get the amounts returned that they owe you. The service will take vigorous enforcement action upon these taxpayers and against promoters and return preparers who assist the taxpayers in taking these positions. Frivolous returns and other similar documents submitted to the service and processed through the service frivolous returns program. As part of this program, the service determines whether taxpayers who have taken positions have filed all required tax returns, blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. And then they repeat everything, and they go into analysis down here, law and analysis. So they start talking about citizenship and the 14th Amendment, which is, of course, has to do with people that live in D.C. and are naturalized. So they're all D.C. slaves. Has nothing to do with individual state citizens. Blah, blah, blah. Bunch of horseshit, bunch of horseshit, bunch of horseshit. Then they post, irrelevant case law about some cases that had nothing to do with the truth about filing properly to get your returns and W-2s. None of this has to do with the truth, which is that you file using a form 4852 to correct that W-4 and to get what was withheld returned. That's all legit. They mixed it into this endless giant pile of horse shit that has nothing to do with it, talking about citizenship. And here finally we get to section 7701A, defines taxpayer, defines person. There it is right there. Person, individual, trust, estate, partnership, or corporation. Just so you know, the word individual is only used in the code when in conjunction with the phrase non-resident alien individual. You will never see the word individual next to the word state citizen individual or citizen individual or citizen anything. It is only used in context with non-resident alien individuals. So a person is an alien, a trust, an estate, partnership, or corporation. So it says it right there. Now they get you way 3/4 of the way down the page before they show you the definition, or actually show the stupid agent, who by this time has already probably stopped reading the document and realized that anytime somebody files a 4852 that they must be up to something frivolous when there's nothing further from the truth. So by this point, people probably aren't even reading the document and they've already swallowed the fucking Kool-Aid. And they just keep going on with pointless case laws and blah blah blah, taxpayers, person used in the code, natural persons, individuals, which are all DC slaves. Then they get into the penalties, and as you can see right here, section 6702 is when they enacted the $5,000 penalty. It used to be $500, but so many people were writing crazy statements on their returns. They said, well, that's a frivolous statement, that's a frivolous position, which impedes their ability to process returns, and that's how they bumped it up to 5,000, because so many people got into all these stupid tax scams and trying to get out of it the wrong way. Now they penalize the hell out of people. They can penalize you up to $25,000, $5,000 each time you do it, but a proper frivolous filing is only when you cross crap out, you don't put in proper information. That includes when illegals they have 50 kids that live with them and they really don't. But what they're talking about is when, say, if I were to, what I would have to do to get a proper frivolous filing penalty is to cross something out, like the jurat, cross that out. Some people think it makes you liable for something. It doesn't. When you write, I don't have to pay this because the 16th Amendment was never ratified, or some bullshit, irrelevant crap. Any statement at all is irrelevant, unnecessary, and they will say it is impeding their ability to file the return and thus frivolous. All you can put 0 wages if you didn't actually make any federal wages. You put your name, your address, the amount they withheld totaled, that's what you want returned, and your signature. In fact, you can even write, without prejudice, UCC 1-308. That's allowed. You're not allowed. That's reserving your rights. That's not the same as writing some crazy shit. But anything else, if you go making comments, that's frivolous. They take all of that and they mix it in with a little bit of truth, which is how to properly file for a return of what was withheld. And that's how they get the agent to believe that when they see somebody trying to do a proper filing, that they must be up to something crazy. Okay, so there's that. I just wanted you to see the type of documents that they feed these to them endlessly on every word, every subject, everything they can. They've got forms like this that are full of horse shit with a little bit of truth. Big fat turd in the punch bowl that they feed to these agents to get them to believe what they're doing. So then we have to come along once we learn the truth and educate them properly. And I've done that many times, and it's kind of fun. So I just wanted to show you the kind of crap they do. So there's that. Like I said, I'll get that other one out later. Okay, later.